There are fighters who define their era, and then there are those who redefine what's possible inside a boxing ring. Naoya Inoue belongs to that second category. The Japanese superstar, nicknamed the Monster, had long established himself as one of the sport's most feared and technically brilliant fighters. Every punch carried intent. Every move carried purpose. His dominance had become so absolute that even elite contenders began to look like stepping stones in his march toward history. However, when TJ Doheny's name appeared opposite his on the bout sheet, a sense of intrigue emerged. This was no ordinary challenger. This was a man forged through grit, hardship, and unrelenting ambition. TJ Doheny, the proud Irishman from Portlaoise, had carved out a name for himself the hard way. A world traveler and a fighter's fighter, he earned his stripes through tough battles, long flights, and short paychecks. By the time he reached the world stage, he was no stranger to adversity. His path to the top had been one of resilience and reinvention. In 2018, he captured the IBF Super Bantamweight title, fulfilling a lifelong dream. But championships only make the target bigger, and Doheny's reign was short-lived. Still, the fire never left him. He fought his way back with a renewed purpose, to test himself against the very best, against the monster himself. From the moment the fight was announced, analysts understood that Doheny would be a stiff challenge. His southpaw stance, sharp timing, and thudding body shots had the potential to trouble even an elite technician like Inoue. There was mutual respect between them, but no illusions. Each man knew that inside the ropes, admiration meant nothing. The monster was a precision machine, and the Irishman was determined to find a way to disrupt that rhythm. As the fighters touched gloves, there was an electric tension in the air. This was a meeting between two champions, two men with belts, pride, and legacies on the line. The crowd understood the stakes. Every seat in the arena seemed to hold its breath as the opening bell rang. Inoue began in familiar fashion, measured, analytical, his eyes fixed like a hawk studying prey. He always used the first round to read and to gather information. Doheny, aware of the danger, stayed disciplined. His jab was quick and direct, probing at Inoue's guard, looking for reactions. There was no rush from either man. Inoue, as always, was patient, taking mental snapshots of every movement. Even so, the sharpness of Doheny's counters hinted that this would not be a routine night. The early rounds were chess-like, strategic exchanges, feints, and adjustments. Doheny's left hand found occasional success to the body, forcing Inoue to reset. The monster's jab, meanwhile, sliced through space with uncanny accuracy. You could sense the gears turning inside Inoue's mind. He was reading, downloading, and waiting for the slightest misstep. As the second and third rounds unfolded, the pace began to quicken. Doheny's confidence grew. He threw combinations in flurries, often finishing to the body, trying to sap Inoue's strength early. The Irishman's corner urged him to stay active, to keep mixing up the angles. But the calm on Inoue's face remained unbroken. He had seen this before. The plan was unfolding exactly as he wanted it to. In the fourth round, the intensity began to shift. Inoue started to let his hands go. His trademark right to the body landed with a thud that echoed through the arena. Doheny absorbed it well, but the look in his eyes changed. He understood now what so many others had before him. The monster's power wasn't ordinary. It was thudding, paralyzing, the kind that lingered. Still, Doheny fought bravely. His left hand, darting in from unexpected angles, occasionally found its mark. He used head movement to slip the jab and counter to the ribs. His footwork, tricky and unpredictable, kept Inoue from planting his feet for long stretches. But Inoue's patience was beginning to pay dividends. The Japanese champion started to anticipate the rhythm, stepping inside just as Doheny committed, punishing him with precision shots to the midsection. By the fifth, the crowd was fully engaged. Each exchange drew roars. Inoue's timing grew sharper, and Doheny began to feel the weight of every punch. The monster's strategy was clear: dismantle the body first, and the head will fall on its own. It was a formula that had worked countless times before, and tonight would be no exception. But Doheny wasn't backing down. He fought with pride, standing his ground and trading in the pocket. His counters were crisp, his combinations fluid. For a brief moment, it looked as though he might have found a rhythm that could trouble Inoue. Yet the monster adjusted again, shortening his punches, digging hooks into the ribs, and stepping back just enough to evade return fire. Inoue's corner urged him to stay disciplined. He nodded calmly, eyes locked on his opponent. He could see the subtle changes. Doheny's breathing had quickened, his guard dropping ever so slightly after each exchange. It was the beginning of the endgame. Round 6 saw the monster truly come alive. His movement was fluid, his rhythm hypnotic. He began to bounce lightly on his toes, darting in and out with speed that left the Irishman chasing shadows. A right hand landed flush to the body, followed by an overhand right upstairs. Doheny gritted his teeth and fired back, showing immense courage, but the tide was turning. Inoue's punches carried a different kind of energy now, snapping, surgical, and destructive. The crowd could feel it too. Every time Inoue landed, a murmur spread through the arena. This was what they had come to see, the transformation from technician to Terminator, the moment when precision became punishment. In the 7th, Inoue began to dominate the tempo entirely. Doheny's movement slowed. His once quick counters were now a fraction late. Inoue, smelling blood, stalked forward with the calm assurance of a champion in control. He feinted low, drew the guard down, then unleashed a vicious combination upstairs. Doheny absorbed it bravely, his chin tested and his pride unbroken. But the monster was relentless. Body shot after body shot sank into the Irishman's ribs. Each one chipped away at his reserves. The crowd could hear the impact. The commentary team marveled at Inoue's precision, how he could throw with such violent intent while maintaining perfect balance. This was the artistry of destruction. Between rounds, Doheny's corner urged him to dig deep. They told him he was still in it, that one good shot could change everything. And they were right. Doheny possessed real power. He had stopped world-class fighters before. All it would take was one clean punch. But against Inoue, one shot was a fantasy few could ever realize. Inoue opened the 8th round with a renewed sense of purpose. His footwork was masterful, cutting off the ring with quiet menace. He targeted the body with cruel efficiency, forcing Doheny to drop his hands lower and lower. Then, with the precision of a surgeon, he began mixing in the right hands over the top. The pattern was set. Body, body, head. Over and over. Each combination wore Doheny down a little more. For a brief moment, the Irishman rallied, catching Inoue with a left hand on the inside. It was clean and sharp, a reminder that his heart was still in it. But Inoue barely blinked. He fired back instantly with a devastating right to the liver. Doheny stumbled backward, his body betraying him, the pain etched across his face. The monster moved in for the finish. 3 body shot knockdowns followed. Each one was more punishing than the last. Doheny tried to rise, showing the toughness that had defined his career, but the shots had taken their toll. Inoue, unflinching and methodical, closed the distance once more. A final right hand to the midsection sent Doheny crumpling. The referee stepped in. It was over. The crowd erupted. Another masterclass. Another victory. Naoya Inoue had done it again. For Doheny, there was no shame in defeat. He had faced one of the greatest fighters of his generation and fought with courage and heart. Few could withstand that kind of sustained assault. As Inoue embraced him after the final bell, the respect between the two men was clear. There was no bad blood, only admiration for a fellow warrior. Inoue stood in the center of the ring, gloves raised, sweat glistening under the bright lights. This was a fighter at the absolute peak of his powers. Every challenge he faced seemed only to sharpen him further. With each new opponent, he added another layer to his legacy. Commentators and fans alike began to ask the inevitable question: where does Naoya Inoue rank among the pound-for-pound best? For many, the answer was clear. He wasn't just one of the best, he was the best. His resume, his performances, and his technique, they spoke for themselves. What made Inoue truly special wasn't just his knockout power or his flawless timing. It was his discipline, his composure, and his relentless drive to improve. Even as a champion, he never stopped evolving. Every fight revealed a new wrinkle in his game, a subtle defensive adjustment, a new combination, an added layer of patience. Against Doheny, he had shown once again that he could adapt to any style. The Irishman had brought pressure, creativity, and toughness, but none of it was enough. Inoue had met every question with an answer, every challenge with a solution. When you look back at the careers of boxing's true greats, fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard, Manny Pacquiao, and Floyd Mayweather, you see the same traits: precision, discipline, intelligence, and an unwavering will to win. Inoue belongs in that company. His performances are not just victories, they are statements. That night, in front of a roaring crowd, Naoya Inoue reminded the world why he is called the monster. His punches were poetry and punishment combined. His footwork, seamless. His composure, unshakable. Every time he stepped into the ring, he brought the aura of inevitability, a sense that no matter what his opponent tried, the outcome was already written. For Doheny, the fight was both humbling and affirming. He had shared the ring with greatness and stood his ground. Fighters like him are essential to the sport. They remind the world that courage is just as important as victory. Doheny's toughness, his refusal to quit, and his ability to compete at the highest level earned him admiration across the boxing community. After the bout, Inoue spoke with his usual quiet humility. He thanked his opponent, his team, and his fans. There was no boastfulness, no arrogance, just the calm satisfaction of a man who had done his job perfectly. For him, every fight was another step toward perfection, another opportunity to test his limits. As the weeks passed, speculation began to build about Inoue's next move. Would he chase undisputed status across multiple weight classes? Would he face the next generation of challengers eager to test the monster's mettle? One thing was certain: whoever stood across from him next would face the same daunting challenge: how to survive against one of the most complete fighters the sport has ever seen. Inoue's story is one of dedication, discipline, and destiny. From his early days in Japan to his rise on the world stage, he has carried the same quiet confidence and ruthless precision. His fights aren't just sporting events, they are masterclasses in controlled aggression. Each punch tells a story. Each knockout adds another line to a growing legend. When fans talk about the modern greats, Inoue's name now sits comfortably at the top of that conversation. His combination of power, speed, and ring IQ is something the sport rarely sees in one package. He has the rare ability to end fights with a single shot, yet also the patience to outthink and outmaneuver his rivals over 12 rounds. And yet, beneath the ferocity, there is humility. Inoue never forgets the fighters who stand across from him. He understands what it takes to prepare for war, the sacrifices made long before the first bell rings. That's why his post-fight embrace with Doheny meant so much. It was a moment of shared respect between two men who live by the same code. The monster's journey continues, each fight adding another layer to his mythos. The names on his record read like a hit list of champions and contenders, but it's not the names themselves that matter, it's the manner in which he beats them. He doesn't just win, he dominates. He dissects. He dismantles. And he does it with the kind of artistry that makes boxing purists nod in appreciation. TJ Doheny's effort that night will not be forgotten. He reminded everyone that courage is the heartbeat of boxing. While he couldn't overcome the monster, he showed that even in defeat, there is honor. For every punch he threw, every round he fought, he proved that he belonged on that stage. As the lights dimmed and the crowd began to disperse, one thing was clear: they had just witnessed something special. Inoue had once again delivered a performance that blended violence and beauty, science and instinct. He had reaffirmed his place not just as a champion, but as a generational talent, one whose name will be spoken with reverence for years to come. Naoya Inoue's greatness isn't measured by titles alone, but by the way he fights, the way he carries himself, and the legacy he continues to build. And though TJ Doheny came up short, his performance only added to the lore. The night the Fighting Irishman stood toe-to-toe with the monster and gave everything he had. In the end, boxing is about moments, those fleeting instants when skill, courage, and heart collide. On that night, in that ring, both men created a moment that will live long in memory. The monster roared again, and the world took notice. Because when Naoya Inoue fights, you're not just watching boxing, you're witnessing history.